Hello everybody, JGC Anime here, and today we are going to be reviewing Toilet Bound Hanako-kun, also known as Jibaku Shonen Hanako-kun. So, yeah, that's all I really have to say, so let's just hop right into this. So, what is Toilet Bound Hanako-kun? Basically, it's the story of this girl called Yashiro Nene, who tries to bring up the toilet ghost, Hanako, which is also known as like the girl bathroom ghost thing, like one of the 7 wonders of school, since Japan has those 7 wonders. However, when she tries to summon Hanako, she's instead, rather than met with a mysterious ghost girl, she's met with a childish boy who seems quite energetic, and so she just makes a deal with him, since apparently Hanako's whole thing is that he can grant wishes, and she wishes for a guy she likes to like her back. However, after she asks Hanako to do that, while he does agree to do it, events ensue, and it ends up leaning towards her unintentionally, just because out of an act of rashness, Yashiro ends up swallowing some kind of scale that causes her to turn to a fish. And now she is bound to Hanako, because if she isn't bound to him, she'll be stuck as a fish. But when she's bound to him, she's not. So thus she ends up becoming as like apprentice type person or assistant, and events ensue for the rest of the series. This is a really bad description, but it's the best I got, because honestly so much happens in the first episode, trying to summarize it all into like 20 seconds is impossible. But yeah, let's just hop right into this. So what I like and dislike. Honestly, I really like a lot of the characters. There are a lot of characters, by the way. Yes, there are a ton. There are some minor characters like Akane Aoi, I think I said her name right, and she's fine. There's also Ayu Akane, which is very funny because they basically just have their names reversed, which makes it even funnier. And there's also other side characters, but we don't need to talk about those since most of them aren't really important. But we do have to focus on most of the main cast. Yashiro Nene, or we'll just call her Nene, is a fine character. I think she's actually very fine. Personally, out of everyone, my favorite character has to be Hanako, because he's a lot of fun, and he makes me think of those childish boys who might have a secret side or not. It really depends on the type of person you want to bring in there, but Hanako is really good. I really enjoyed Hanako as a character. Nene is fine, and they also have another character on the side called Minamoto Kao. I think that's how his name is spelled, where he's like an exorcist who wants to exorcise Hanako. However, after seeing how good Hanako acted, he was just like, you know what, maybe he isn't a bad person after all, and thus he ends up joining their crew. And there's also the antagonists, such as Nanamine Sakura or Hyuga Natsushiko. I think I'm reading them off a wiki right now, so I can't confirm if these are the real names or not, but I'm reading them off a wiki because I'll be honest, Japanese names are not my strong suit. And there's other characters as well, but I don't want to spoil too much, so I won't go into that without going into the spoiler section. And let's just talk about some other things I like and dislike, since that's what we're doing. There were a few things I disliked. One being the mystery element. Now I get it's a mystery, and I'm fine with that, but all this show did throughout its entire run was continuously add mystery after mystery. Very few times did it really have any resolutions. There was usually a monster of the day formula, for the most part, but the biggest issue for me was that even at the end of the series, there were still a lot of unanswered questions, and I felt a little unsatisfied with those questions because I wanted those answered, but we never got them answered. But still, overall, I thought most of the episodes were really solid. I had a great time with a lot of the characters, and again, Hanako is definitely my favorite character in the crew, while the others are fine and they do their job. You know, they're meant to be pushing forces for the story. And overall, I had a pretty good time, so let's just talk some spoiler-free thoughts, because honestly, I'm getting a little off track here. So when I was watching this, I was still a little unsure. Like, the whole reason I decided to check the show out in the first place, as ridiculously as it sounds, is just because of its opening. I thought the opening sounded fantastic, so I was wondering, what if this show is good? So I sat down and watched it that way. And I had a good time. I didn't watch everything in a single day, because recently I've been having trouble doing that, but I did manage to sit through it around like 2 or so weeks, and yeah, I don't regret sitting down and watching it. It was very enjoyable, and while it mostly focused on the Monster of the Week formula, I still found myself fairly enjoying the Monster of the Week formula, and honestly, I found it to be highly enjoyable. Did I love every single aspect of it? No, there were some episodes that I wasn't a big fan of, which I can go over in the spoiler section why that's the case. But I enjoyed a majority of the episodes. Not every single one, and there were, again, I still don't like the fact that there were some mysteries that were never resolved, but who knows? Maybe something could change in the future. Maybe we'll get a season 2, and maybe those explanations will be given. But yeah, I realize that we probably won't get much farther without spoiling some stuff, so here is a timestamp to when the spoiler section of this video, since that's what we're entering, is going to end. So if you haven't seen Hanako, I'd recommend skipping, but if you have seen it, I'd recommend sticking around because, you know, I might have something you might agree or disagree with. So yeah, let's just hop right down into this after counting down from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So, one episode that I definitely didn't care for, which sounds ridiculous considering how much of a plot-relevant episode it is later on, is the episode where we introduce Mitsuba, a character who ends up getting a close friendship with the character Kao. And even though I understand the whole point of it was that Mitsuba was meant to make a friend in that episode, and Kao ended up acting as that friend, I didn't really feel anything when watching it. I was just like, oh, okay. It just felt like what I guess you could call it anime movie plot. Because in almost every anime movie, unless it's like an original movie or something, in most anime movies, they'll do the same thing. They'll introduce a character and kill that character off by the end. Other characters are sad, move on. Granted, Mitsuba does come back to continue the storyline a bit later. However, that episode felt very much like a generic anime movie, and since I'm so used to that formula, it didn't really impact me. All it really did was kind of tease a little bit more about Hanako's younger brother, Tsukasa, who apparently Hanako murdered, which honestly, that was probably one of the best things about the show. I really like the introduction of Tsukasa, who kind of sticks around for the series, but my only big issue with him isn't even that he's in the series. My biggest issue with Tsukasa, as ridiculous as it sounds, is there's not really enough of him to fully understand. Like, he seems to love Hanako a lot, and it feels like there's some connection there, but I'm struggling to understand it because they don't go over that. They just kind of have him pop in, pop out, you know, be their main villain with Sakura and Natsushiku. And I hope I said that right, but basically, it felt so weird because it felt like they were just playing the villains of the week and we weren't going to get any answers as to why. And we didn't even by the end of the season. When the season ended, Tsukasa was still a mysterious character who had some form of connection to Hanako, who still easily got nervous around Tsukasa whenever they were around one another, for the most part. And I want to know more. I want to see more. But I can't because they didn't try to explain it. They just left more questions than answers, and that's something I'm a little unsatisfied with. Another kind of questionable thing was the character Yako. I hope I didn't say it like the Animaniacs Yako, or is it Yako? I don't know. But she was a weird character in this series for me. I guess she kind of just played the part of the character who was meant to push the others on after she was redeemed or something like that, but I feel like mostly she just kind of played for comic relief after her initial story, which worked. It was very funny, especially when Hanako just kept like threatening her to turn her into Fox Udon, which is very funny. But overall, she didn't feel like a very necessary character, and I found myself less than invested in who she was. It was kind of the same with, I think the guy's name is Tsukuchi Mokomori or something like that. I'm sorry, again, I'm terrible with Japanese names, but he wasn't really that much of an interesting character to me either. He wasn't terrible. I was curious about him, but only so much the part where he kind of revealed stuff about Hanako. Since Hanako, again, still my favorite character, and I wish we learned more about him, but sadly, we don't learn much. I thought maybe if I sat down and watched the show, I would get to learn more about Hanako, but even after watching it, I still feel like I barely know the dude. And yeah. But most of the episodes still are pretty solid. Other than the storyline with Mitsuba before the episodes, I think it was called Hell of Mirrors. Before those episodes, I wasn't a really big fan of Mitsuba, but I didn't hate him in the later storylines. I'm not a big fan of crybaby characters. I've never really liked them, and that's why I hate so many of them. From Zenitsu, from Demon Slayer, to the main character of Fruit of Evolution, and I still need to make a review on that, but I'm thinking of making like a full-fledged out video, because it's terrible. I really don't like that show. But I'm just not a fan of whiny characters, and that's why Mitsuba didn't really stick with me. I didn't like Mitsuba because I hate crybabies. I don't like those types of characters. They annoy the heck out of me, and I don't like them. I don't want them in my show. And still though, I didn't mind most of the episodes. I still am quite upset that we didn't learn more about Hanako, and I felt like we could have spent a little less time on Nene's like love crushes, since she crushes on a lot of dudes in this show. Like she crushes on a lot of them. But I don't know. I found the whole thing to be a mixed bag, where I loved a lot of it, but at the same time, I wish there was more to go off of, and I felt a little unsatisfied that we didn't learn anything by the end. It was like kind of like the special episode of the vampire dies in no time, where the characters are at a festival and then something happens, which I don't want to spoil too much of that show, but something happens and then they never explain it. I don't like when shows introduce stuff and then never explain it, because you never know if they're going to get a season 2. Still though, I had a fairly good time with this show, and I'm not afraid to admit there were some parts I really did enjoy. But that's all I can really say, so we're at the conclusion of this video, and what are my final thoughts? It's pretty good. I don't love every single element, and I felt like it could have been better in some places, but for the most part, it was an amazing anime, and I don't regret sitting down and watching it. So, also, I guess you could say the art style is unique. I forgot to mention that, but yeah, the art style is more unique than what I'm used to, so that was cool. But yeah, I guess all I have to do is give this anime an 8 out of 10. That's what I give it. That's what I decided. 8 out of 10. I think it's pretty good. I enjoyed a lot of it. While I did hate the fact that the mystery elements were never resolved, some of them weren't anyways. Some of them weren't resolved, and also it left me with me feeling a little unsatisfied at times. I still enjoyed it, and I'm not afraid to say I'd want a season 2. I'd want to see where this goes next. But yeah, that's all I really have to say. Thank you all for watching. If you're new to the JGC Anime channel, don't forget to subscribe. I try to upload anime reviews every week, and I will see you all around. Peace!